Welcome to episode 109 of Eat, Drink, Write, an Urban Fantasy Whiteboard.
Yeah. My gosh. So it's been a hot second.
A long time. Lots and lots has happened.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I think the last time we even podcasted was before you even graduated.
Maybe I meant to go back and look and see what our last episode was, and I just ran out of time as we were gearing up to do this. But I know it's been at least well before I got my new job. So
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Y'all, she's graduated. She's gotten a new job. She's been working. She is doing great at her new job. She just got a raise already.
I
So
did.
that
Yeah, yeah.
tells you how great she's been doing. But my dad passed away at the end of last year, her granddad.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
just been a horrible time.
It's been a weird mixture of events that we've been dealing with here, and
I thought 2023 was going to be better, but my mom fell yesterday, your
she's
grandmother.
okay though. She's
She
okay.
is. It's just one thing right after another.
That's true. But you know what? Count our blessings.
I
She
mean,
is totally fine.
there was one point when my whole law firm was sick. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
all of us were just sick.
Hmm.
So, and it's been just like that, one thing right after another. My
Yeah.
paralegal's father-in-law just got diagnosed with cancer, so they're dealing with that. My associate has issues with her iron levels. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
one thing right after another, but we're trying to come back.
And yeah, well, yes, that's a good way to put it. We're trying to come back. We've made it this far at least, and thank you to any of you who are tuning in at the moment.
Yeah, who are these girls?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we disappeared off the face of the earth, and now we're coming back, which brings us to our topic actually, which is getting back into writing after a long break, because I feel like that's very on the nose as we are
Yes.
trying to get back into our podcast.
Hmm.
So we're going to be talking about getting back into the swing of things after a really long hiatus, however you say that. Aren't you guys so excited to listen to us be idiots again? um so how do we pick it back up, and how do we get our momentum going again is what we're going to be discussing today.
Yeah, I mean, granted, it's not only been a long time since we've done our podcasting, but for me at least, it's been a long time since I've done any writing.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but it's great to be back. So, let's get into it. Be aware that if you have been away from writing for a while, it's not as easy as just picking it right back up again. It's going to be awkward. So
Yeah.
be prepared for that. Don't let that discourage you. The point is to get back into it, and it's not going to just be as it was, you
Right,
know.
right.
So be prepared for that.
Oh, actually, before we do get started, the whole crux of what our podcast is, what are you eating and drinking?
Oh, I am drinking my pink sparkling brute rosé because I am
Nice,
still on keto. So I
nice,
try to go
nice.
with the low sugar stuff. And I ate a very non-keto lunch. We go to Jay Christopher's a lot, which is a restaurant
Uh-huh.
locally, and my mouth is watering. I had a roast beef um, Benedict. So it was a biscuit, roast beef on it, hollandaise sauce, the over easy, the
Wow.
poached egg. It was fabulous.
Well, that sounds absolutely delicious.
It was. And, of course, I shouldn't have eaten the biscuit, but oh gosh, it
Oh
was
man.
worth it. It's very
Hard,
cold here today, so it was very
true,
nice. Yeah.
true. Hard to turn down a biscuit. I like
Hmm.
I like a good biscuit.
What about you? What are you eating and drinking?
I made a very, very small screwdriver.
Oh,
So
fun.
very little
Okay.
vodka. It's mostly orange juice. But just to crack into it again.
Hmm.
And then I ate some cottage cheese, and I love cottage cheese just straight out of the container.
I do
It's like
too.
it's like my favorite thing.
I didn't know any of my children had gotten that taste bud from me. Everybody else
Oh,
hates it.
oh, I love it so much. And Sid, my fiance, she hates it. She hates it to death by itself, but we can put it in things, which is why we actually have some in the house.
Hmm.
And so we didn't use any, or we didn't use all of it. And so I get to just kind of sneak a few bites here and there.
What
Just
did you make, lasagna or something? What did you use it in? What'd
no,
you cook it?
we made a chicken salad with it.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. So we're trying to be a lot healthier, starting the new year. We're getting
Mm-hmm.
married at the end of the year. We both want to look
Mm-hmm.
good in our dresses and outfits and whatever we have
Yes.
going on.
Yes, yes.
And so we're trying to eat healthier. We're trying to get especially just more protein in our diets because we definitely don't eat enough protein. And now we're starting to work out again.
Workout.
And
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, and so we're trying to count all of our macromolecules and blah 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 health stuff. That's not this podcast.
Right. Different topic. Oh, but we should say, because our lives have been so crazy, I don't know that we're going to be able to do this every single week. So we're
That's true.
thinking every other week or maybe twice a month.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
let us know what you all think about that. It's just between her schedule, my schedule, everything else that's going on. I've got two kids graduating in May,
Yes.
my two
Yep.
youngest, and it's just, oh.
Yeah.
So yeah, we thought every other week. So don't be expecting us weekly like we were before.
True.
But we might work up to that. I think part of it's going to be getting back into the habit of doing this. So, and we have
Absolutely.
missed it terribly. We've
We
missed
have.
talking, writing.
I know. We've been off the rails for so long and I was listening to a different podcast and I was like, "You know what? I miss our podcast." And I texted
Mm-hmm.
mom and here we are. So,
Yep. Yep. She's like, let's start it again. And I was like, oh, okay. Okay. Let's do it. And then, of course, it took us 3 weeks to get our act together to be here tonight to be able to do this.
listen, we'll call it planning. It was a planning 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's it.
All
Okay.
righty.
So, what's the first thing you can do to get back to it?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm gonna have a list of things. Um, sorry, I'm distracted. My cat has decided to stalk my other cat. And she likes to bust through the door, so I have to keep an eye on her. Good Lord. So I'm going to have a list of things that you can do to kind of get back into the swing of writing, get back into feeling comfortable with getting back into your craft, et
Mm-hmm.
cetera, et cetera. So the first thing that I have is read other books. I know that's not specifically writing, but when you read other books, like it's a really, really good place to start to get inspiration for your own writing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure we've talked about that before. But whenever I pick up a new book, my brain just it starts moving. It starts moving, it starts thinking about my own stories, my own plots, different ways that different authors see things and different perspectives. I love it. I love reading
Mm-hmm.
books. It gets me thinking about my own writing, and I immediately am like, yes, I want to go write my own book.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a really major point. I haven't read either. See, and I
Yeah,
have totally not been able to do important things.
right,
I probably haven't read in over a year, and I miss that terribly too.
right.
I have, as every writer and reader does, I have a stack of to read books right next to the
Yep,
bed.
yep.
One of them is from our listener, Deanna Lowry. Hopefully, she's going to come back and find us. It's on the top. It's the one I want to read first. It's sitting right there. I look at it every time I lay down in bed and I'm like, okay, I'm going to read. And then the next thing I know, I'm asleep. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah. One of my I was really hoping to get to her book too before we started our
mm-hmm,
podcast back again because I wanted to talk about it.
mm-hmm.
Um but unfortunately I did not get the chance to read it yet. But to be fair, I haven't read any book.
Me
So
either. It's not like I'm ignoring hers. I haven't read anything.
yeah, but it's a New Year's goal of mine to read at least 10 pages a day. Just 10 pages. Start somewhere small. I'll get back into thinking about stories and plot lines, and then that way maybe I can apply something to my own writing.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah,
You
just 10
know,
pages,
I,
just something.
the best I can do, which is nowhere near reading, is I do like to Netflix. I like
Yeah.
to,
Mm-hmm.
and that also makes my brain go. I just finished watching The Stand, the latest The
Mm-hmm.
Stand series. I think it was on Prime. Might have been on Prime. Might have been Netflix. I don't know.
Yeah.
But those shows also get my brain thinking.
Right.
So anything you can do to get started on that imaginary thought process would be good.
Definitely. Like absolutely anything story related. It doesn't have to be reading, but reading is a really good way to get an idea of like sentence structures and like
Mm-hmm.
the way that other authors describe things with words and that kind of thing. I do agree though with you. Any story that gets your brain moving a little bit is just a really good way to get back into writing.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
And then also just on top of that, read within your genre. It's a great way to get ideas for your own stories. We're urban fantasy. And so reading urban fantasy books is just a really good way to start thinking about other urban fantasy plot lines that could potentially happen. Um, but I
Plus,
also,
it kind of keeps you up to date on what the trends are as well, which you need to know as well. Although I don't write for the market, I write for me,
I
but
same,
but
yeah,
it's still nice to know, wow, vampires have been overdone.
right. Or they've been overdone in this way. What if I did it
Yeah,
this
what
way?
if I did it this way? Yeah.
I do want to reiterate though that you should also read outside of your writing genre.
Mm-hmm.
Because those can give you new ideas and they can trigger your brain into organizing your own plots and pulling tropes from maybe other types of stories that you can use within your genre or within your own story plotline. So I just wanted to add that in there.
Yeah, for sure.
Make a schedule. I think I am such a routine, schedule oriented person. I really love to have some structure to my
Mm-hmm.
life.
Yeah.
Um, it's funny though I'm saying that because as I'm talking, I'm like, yes, I like structure. Apparently, in my notes, when I took these notes and wrote these notes down, I did not feel the same way. Um, I said I hate schedules personally.
That
um,
was then, and this is
and this
now.
is now. It's new year, new me. No, the reason that I said that in these notes is because I think they're hard to stick to a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, my brain is very chaotic. I feel like a lot of writers' brains are probably very chaotic.
Yeah.
And my life has been super hectic. I know yours has been too.
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard to stick to a very solid schedule. But I think what I do like about schedules is that if I set a time, or set aside a time, I suppose, to actually sit down and write, then I have nothing else that's scheduled in that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's just a really good way to get yourself into the habit of writing again. And that's going to be just invaluable, honestly.
I think so. I think probably part of why you hate schedules is that with the chaos that we do have in our lives, you plan something and then a fire happens and you've got to go and put it out. And so you get
Right.
frustrated looking at that calendar or however you keep your schedule and going, there was a whole block of time I was supposed to write whatever the ninth was. It was a Monday, I think.
Yeah.
I do it by calendar. I put all my
Mm-hmm.
stuff on a
Mm-hmm.
calendar, and I was like, I think it was a holiday. No, that might have been the 16th. Yeah,
Yes.
Martin Luther
Yes.
King Jr.'s birthday. I was like, I've got, the offices are going to be closed, everything's closed. I'm going to write that day. And then I don't remember what happened, but I couldn't write that day. And so
Yeah.
it can get frustrating to schedule and then not be able to follow through. You just got to kind of be fluid with your scheduling, but
Yeah.
I mean, if whatever that fire was that came up on that day, I don't remember what it was. If it hadn't happened, I would have written during that time.
Yeah, for
And it
sure.
would have felt wonderful because I would have had it scheduled. I would have followed my schedule and I would have felt great.
Yeah. Yeah. The something that I'm doing a lot this year, I'm trying to be very writing focused because I haven't been able to with graduating and starting a new
Mm-hmm.
job and all of that. And I really want to get back into writing. It's something that is just a huge personal goal of mine to just to be able to write, not even necessarily to be published, although that is a huge goal of mine,
Right.
but just to be able to write because it relaxes me. I like my stories. I love the characters that talk to me all the time in my head.
Mm-hmm.
So I
See,
want to,
mine have been very quiet because it's been so long and
well, you got to read a book.
I want them to come back. I mean, it's kind of like exercise. I mean, it is exercise. It's exercise. Wow. I haven't
Oh,
had that much to drink yet.
goodness.
Exercise for your brain,
Hmm.
but it does equate to what exercise is for your body in that the routine is what gets you back into it. Routine and schedule gets you through those rough patches where you don't want to do it, but you've
Yeah.
scheduled it, so you're going to do it. And then
Right.
it becomes habit and it becomes easier to do.
Yeah. Easier. Yeah. No, I like,
Easier.
I like
Yeah.
that because it is definitely hard, especially like, I'll come home from a long day of work, I clean the house, I'm going to help
Mm-hmm.
cook dinner,
Cook dinner. Yeah.
all this stuff. And then I sit down and it's finally like, all right, well, I could write. And I'm like, well, I'm tired.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, no, okay, you've got to actually do
Mm-hmm.
this. And once it becomes a habit, it'll be much easier to avoid saying, well, I'm tired.
Well, and I
Um,
think your brain will become used to it too. It'll be going, it'll know it's going to be time, and you're going to start thinking of ideas as you're cooking dinner, and as you know, because in an hour I'm going to be writing, and so
Right.
your brain will start thinking about that kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. Plus, like if you set aside, I think I said this before, but I'm just going to reiterate it because I don't know. It's so important to me, especially this month as I've been trying to get into a planner and like scheduling my life a little bit so that I can actually get my goals done.
Mm-hmm.
But setting aside a specific time for writing, there won't be anything else to interfere with it. You
Right.
can just do that because that's what you've scheduled. That's
Right.
what's that time is meant for. So, there's nothing to keep you from getting words onto paper as
Mm-hmm.
long as you set aside that time. This time is for writing.
Yeah.
It also allows for consistency in your writing, which you were talking about with habits.
Yeah.
So it's really great for just like continuing progress because I do a lot of stutter stops. I
Yeah.
write a really bunch. God, my words today.
I know. I'm
I
right there with you. We're writers, guys, really.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'll write a bunch and then I won't for a few days, and then I'll write a bunch and then I won't for a few weeks, and then
Don't
I'll
you
write a
hate
few
it when you
days.
write and you end up in the middle of a sentence and then you come back and you're going, what the hell was it I was trying to say?
I used to do that all the time. I think I probably still do.
I do it too. And it's like, I don't know what happened. Kid fell down, something, and
Yeah,
you
yeah,
have to get up and go. And you come back and you're reading this half sentence and you're like, what the hell?
yeah,
What is this?
yeah. Definitely,
But yeah,
definitely.
along those lines, I think you should also set a goal. You were talking about goals a minute ago.
Yes, yeah,
You aren't just writing to write, although that is a start.
yeah.
But try to have a goal in mind. Like I'm going to write a paragraph today. I'm going to write 100 words. I'm going to write a page.
Yep.
Whatever your goal is, have that goal in mind. It helps because it's kind of overwhelming to say, oh, I'm going to write. What does that mean when it's been so long? It's
Right, right.
daunting. So say, okay, I'm going to write a paragraph.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, writing is actually one of my New Year's resolutions this year. It's
Yes.
I want to
Yeah.
put more time into writing. It's important to me, and it's taken a back, you know, burner, so to speak. And that's not, I know that's not the proper saying, but
It's okay.
anyway, you all
We'll keep
know what
going.
I'm talking about. So
Yeah,
yeah. So yeah.
for sure. I feel the same way. I definitely think in the last year my writing has taken a back seat, I think is what you were going
Back
for.
seat, back burner. I don't know what I was thinking.
It's been put on the back burner is also a phrase.
Okay.
There
I
you
was
go.
mixing my idioms
There you
there.
go. I think that's called a malaphor. I think
Hmm.
there's a word for it. It's like a malaphor or something like
I
that.
do that a lot.
Yeah, no, me too. Me too. But for sure, I think setting goals, having these New Year's resolutions, I think that's such a good way to gear yourself back up to getting into writing like you used to.
Hmm. Yeah.
The next thing would be to start slow. And maybe I should have put this first, because
Hmm.
I think this one is crucial to actually getting back into something that you have been slacking, for lack of a better word, I suppose,
Yeah.
slacking on. Um, because if you jump into something far too quickly, you're going to burn out.
Yeah.
You can't run 6 miles after never running at
Right.
all.
Right.
So, like you said, don't expect to be able to write a whole chapter a day right away, like as you're
Hmm.
first getting back into it. Don't sprint into finding your groove with writing.
You
I
know,
think if you can, that's cool, but I can't.
do along those lines, don't expect it to be any good when you first get back into it.
Oh boy.
You're going to hate a lot of what you write. Uh,
Yeah.
but that's okay. Keep going. What you write can always be edited. You're
Yeah.
trying to get into the habit of writing words on paper again. And
Yeah.
so if it sucks, that's okay. And it's going to.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not going to write the great American novel after not having written for a year. You're not going to sit down and do that. So expect it to be bad.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Which I think is so important too, because as I was trying to get back into writing when we did our writers trip last year, that's another thing that we
Mm-hmm.
did. Um, it was extremely difficult to hop back in and try to finish up a book that I was working on, which I finished. Wow, we have so many updates.
I know
Uh,
lots of things have happened.
yeah. So trying to finish that book and getting back into it was very difficult because I would write a paragraph and I'd be like, ugh, like that was
Hmm.
gross. Like I hate
Hmm.
that paragraph. And now I'm in the process of editing it, of course. But like, yeah, just let yourself be bad at things and just get it done and then go back and fix it.
Yeah, we should mention that we try to take a writer's trip every year. It's our Christmas present from my husband, her dad, to both of us. And
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't written, so I had nothing to work on, but I've got 50 million works in progress. So,
Right.
but I didn't know what to do. And so I just chose one
Mm-hmm.
and started to reread it and work on it. And I don't know that I actually wrote anything, but it got me thinking again about that particular book and those characters and the different plot lines that I might do, which is a start.
It is a start. You got to start somewhere. And I
Yeah.
think that's such a good way to do it is just to pick something and run with it. You know,
Hmm.
you've got something in mind, just, all hands on deck. Just go
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah.
Ease into your new schedule though. I talk about like scheduling, I talk about goals. I suppose we talk about it. No, this is my podcast. um, but we writers are so hard on ourselves. Oh, this isn't good enough. I haven't written enough. Oh, I only
Hmm.
wrote 200 words today. I could have done more, yada, yada, yada.
Hmm.
But give yourself a little bit of slack. I said not writing was slacking in a poor choice of words, but you need to cut yourself some slack as you're trying to get back into it.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
Yeah. I think when you're first trying to get back into it, it is overwhelming. So maybe set a timer for the amount of time that you know you can do. 5 minutes.
yes,
Set a timer for 5 minutes, 10
there,
minutes.
there is a program. Oh, and you're going to hate this. We might have talked about it before.
Really?
Yes, you're gonna hate it. And maybe you'll like it. I don't know. But there's a program where you set a timer for how long you want to write,
Mm-hmm.
and then you just write. And you write, and if you stop to like go back and reread it, to go back and edit, it deletes it.
No.
Yes. And so the goal is just to get you consistently, constantly,
Oh, I would
continuously
vomit.
writing.
No way.
So you have to keep writing until your timer runs out. And that way you do get words on the page. You're just kind of vomiting words. You're just kind of putting stuff out there. But that is so great for getting back into getting ideas and
I
figuring out how
don't
to
I don't think that's great. I think that's horrible.
yeah, I
That's
can't remember
torture.
the
That's
name
a
of the program.
nightmare. I mean,
Yeah,
I understand the reasoning behind it, but
right,
I
right.
am one of those writers that stops and rereads and stops and rereads and stops and rereads. That's just
Mhm.
how I am. You're not that way at all.
I am during editing, but I think that makes
Yeah,
sense.
which you're supposed to be
Right.
during editing, but I do it. My first draft chapters are a lot more along than yours are because I
Oh,
edit
yes.
as I go, and you're not supposed to.
Right. No, I do mine very skeletal and go back and fill in
Hmm.
is typically how I do things or rewrite it completely, I suppose.
Which I
Um,
don't know that there's particular, people say, "Oh, this is the way you have to do it." That is not true.
oh, I agree. Yeah.
It is individual to
Yeah.
you,
Well,
you
the
know.
writing experience I feel like is so personal in terms of like how you want to do it.
Hmm.
Um, because like I said before, like publishing is a big goal of mine, but I also just like I just enjoy writing to write.
Me too.
And I am ultimately writing stories for myself. And I think that's how it should be for at least the first draft. If you're
Hmm.
aiming to get published, obviously you have to write for an audience at
Right.
some point,
At
but
some point. Yeah. Yeah.
right. Here's a tip that I have given so many times over the course of this podcast, which is use your writing journal.
Oh, yeah.
Journals are so, so important. They're a great place to put down any ideas that you have, any writing thoughts. Are there any scenes that play in your head? You can write those down in your journal. Write down words that you love. I have a list of words that I love and their definitions, either because of their definitions or just the way they sound.
I
Um,
there are words that I like because of the way they sound.
yeah,
Talking about the pile of books that we have next to our beds,
yeah.
I also have a pile of blank notebooks next to my bed that are for writing that I need
Well,
to get back to as well.
I think that's probably a universal writer problem. I
I think
also have
so.
The
notebooks.
notebooks that I fill up are typically like composition notebooks, like the cheap $1
Hmm.
notebooks that you can get at the store. And then I have like a gazillion gorgeous, like beautiful,
Yes.
well bound notebooks. And I'm like, well, I can't write in those.
I have art journals like that I bought because they're beautiful. And I'm like, but if I do art in it and it sucks, that will ruin this whole book.
Right, right.
Same thing.
I
Yeah.
can't. I just, it's, well, and I'll start to write it and I'm like, oh, this isn't good enough for this notebook. I have to wait
Hmm.
until I have something good enough. And of course, anything you write down in a notebook is always going to be good
Yeah.
enough.
And why not use the beautiful one?
I know, I
That's
know.
what it's for.
I need to do that for sure, for sure. But I also write down descriptions that I read that really
You
stick
do.
out to me.
You're very good at that. You've got these little snippets of descriptions, snippets of scenes that you describe,
Mhm, mhm.
all just all over the place, but
I
in
do.
your notebook. So it's
Yes.
always there for you to get back to.
Yes. And I
I
love
think that's
flipping through it.
very
You
smart.
know,
Yes, it sparks more ideas.
I have notebooks that are like 4 years old that I've written and filled up, and it's fun to just go back and look at it. Some of it's
Yeah.
cringy, obviously, because it's 4 years old and I've grown a lot since then. But
But some of it is like, oh yeah, I remember I had that idea and wouldn't it be cool if, and then you're off and running on something that you might not have thought about 4 years ago, but now it's ready.
super
Yeah.
great source of information. I mean, I
Yeah.
guess it is information, but also inspiration is what I was
Oh
actually
yeah, yeah. That
going
yeah.
for and
Both of
trying to
those
say.
words work. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ugh, my poor brain. We are recording this at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, right after work. So
Yeah, we're both tired. It's been a long, I feel like it's Monday all over again. This every day this week has been Monday.
that's fair. It is yeah, yeah. It might as well have been.
Yeah.
Um, Kitty, I have to see my computer. Thank you. Um, yeah, so back on the topic of writing journals though, you could have a specific journal or multiple journals for specific ideas or specific purposes.
Oh, that's a good
Um,
idea.
yeah, because like if you have a journal set aside for book ideas, then when
I
you're
love that.
down the road and you need a book idea, you can just go and look at what you've written
Oh,
down before.
I want to do that. That's
Do
a
it.
great idea.
Yeah.
That you're brilliant.
Oh,
I raised a brilliant daughter, you guys.
yes, thank you. I am the most brilliant creature as I stumble over every single word that I say on this podcast today.
We're both stumbling a little bit, but I'm not as good with a physical journal. I like the idea of a physical journal. And like
Hmm.
I said, I've got a stack of empty ones that, like you said, are beautiful,
Hmm.
but I tend to, well, first of all, I can't read my own writing, which is a problem. My hand, law school, it's like going to doctor school, except for it's a lot shorter time. But the same thing, you're writing so fast in so many classes, I can't read my writing anymore.
Yeah, I don't think anybody could read your writing anymore.
Yeah, well, my paralegal can. And
That's
in
actually that's
fact,
impressive.
she can when I can't. We'll pull notes out from a court hearing, and I'm like, Judge, I have no idea. And she's like, let me see. And she reads it. She goes, oh yeah, you said da 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 da. And I'm like, really?
Well, that's how you know you found a good paralegal.
I have a wonderful paralegal. She is worth her weight in gold.
Yeah.
But I tend to also have a problem with my brain going so fast. I can't handwrite, which I know is why you like
I was about to say
to
that's
do that.
actually exactly why I like
It
handwriting.
forces your brain to slow down. But
Yes.
I type really, really fast. And so typing works for me because my fingers can go as fast as my brain goes.
Hmm.
And so I kind of have journals in my computer, my word processing programs. I've got file folders of book ideas, but I do love the idea of the aesthetic of a real physical journal.
Yeah.
They are so
Yeah.
beautiful. There is something magical about a physical journal. So I may have to try to slow maybe I'll learn calligraphy or something and that'll force me to write slower. But then I'll be through two words and I'll be going, what was I trying to say? I don't remember.
I mean, your books would be very pretty.
They would be gorgeous. I wouldn't know what they're about, but they would be gorgeous.
Yeah, I might have to go and find one of my pretty
Yeah, I think you
journals that I've tucked
should.
away.
Hmm.
Start writing in it a little bit.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. Something else to help you get back into writing would be to look up some writing templates. Um, whatever.
What does that mean? What's a writing template?
So um, I'm thinking about like in terms of how to craft a scene, what's the template for writing a scene?
Oh,
How
I've
to plot a
seen
book.
writing templates for like romance novels. There's an actual, is it called a template?
Hmm.
There's an
Hmm.
actual step by step, this happens, this happens, this happens. Is that called a
Yes.
template, I
Yeah,
guess?
I would call it a template for sure, for
Okay.
sure. Um, and
Okay.
I mostly like this tip because I think any outside source that you use to gain inspiration to start writing again is going to be a good source.
Well,
Um,
I like that it tells me what to do when I'm sitting here going, I don't know what I'm doing. And it says, write, describe the scene. I'm like, oh, I can do that. And you do what it tells you to do.
Honestly, I struggle with templates personally just because it tells me to do something and I'm like, no.
No. Okay. Y'all, do you see what I dealt with when she was a teenager? Mm-hmm.
Hey, where do you think I got it from?
Oh.
Oh, oh no. But yeah, so looking at outside sources is such a great way to gear up for writing because, like you said, there are things to spark your mind of like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do first, or this is what comes after the
Mm-hmm.
inciting incident, or this
Mm-hmm.
is what comes after I introduce a character.
I do remember reading some templates on like inciting incidents where it tells you how to think about forming. And I mean, that is helpful. You're not
Yes,
wrong. That is very
yes,
helpful, especially if it's been a year since you've written and you're
right,
like, how do I do this again?
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and since I like to do the book rewriting thing,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's super helpful when I'm trying to align the events of my book in the way that they need to be to make a coherent story.
Mm-hmm.
So how to write a scene, what's supposed to happen, what's the typical structure of a scene, and have I pulled that off in the scenes that I've written?
Did
So
we do an episode on how scenes are not necessarily chapters? Because
I think
when I first started writing, I thought every chapter had to be a separate scene. It took a long time before I understood those are two very different things. I we'll have to go back and look at our topics and see if we've talked about that.
we will. I know we've talked about chapters themselves, because a lot of the time a question that I've seen pop up a lot is, how long should a chapter be?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm pretty sure we talked a little bit about that.
We did because I remember bringing up Karen Monning's book and she had
Ah,
that
yes.
that
The
one
one
chapter.
paragraph. Yeah.
Yeah, one paragraph long, and we're like, what?
I
And it
know.
was brilliant. So
Yeah.
yes, it can be done.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Anyway.
it definitely can. But yeah, so templates, how to create an outline. Super good way to start thinking about how to structure your novel if you don't know where to start.
Mm-hmm.
How to plot a book, how to write a scene, like I said. Any of those kinds of um templates are such a good way to get the creative spark going.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you have no idea where to start.
Yeah, talking about the program that wouldn't let you, if you stop, it erases it. That would just give me a heart attack. But I'm actually curious about what writing programs there are because there are some that are supposed to help you organize.
Yeah.
I know I some of them are outrageously expensive, so I've never looked at them, but
Yes. Yeah.
that we should do reviews on some of them at some point. I think we've talked about that before.
We have talked about doing an episode for the different programs that are out there because I have tried a trial run of Scrivener.
Did
And
you
I remember,
ever finish that? Did you like it? Did
well, so when I got it, I was a student at the time, so I didn't have a lot of time to put into it.
mm-hmm.
Luckily, it was a trial that it wasn't 30 days only. So like if I
It
started
was
it,
like 30 days of consistent time or
right, so it
something.
wasn't January 1st to January 31st. It was like if I did some on January 1st and then some on January 5th, then that only counted as 2 days.
Okay.
Um,
And you
uh,
finished the 30 or you still have time?
no, my computer died while I
Oh.
had it, so I did not get to finish it. Um, but I think I enjoyed it, and I don't remember. And I've been thinking about doing another trial, but I've tried a bunch of programs before, and I falter out of them. I kind of fall out of
So
it.
you haven't found one yet that is like, this is it. This is my baby. This is what I'm going to use from now on.
Right. There was one that I saw called Plotter,
Plotter.
Plottr.
Oh,
And
I'm writing that down. I see a cattail.
yeah, she has decided to be in front of my computer. She wants attention. um, but yeah, so there are a few different programs to kind of try out
We will.
to
Let's
help
do
with that.
an episode on that. We're getting off track.
We sure are, as we do.
Yeah, as we do, which I think people like, but I don't know how
Maybe.
long this episode is gonna be.
Fair enough. So my next tip that I have is get ideas from real life. And I know that this is, write what you know is the typical phrase that
Yeah.
writers hear all the time,
Mm-hmm.
just because it's easier to describe things and easier to understand how things work if you've personally experienced those things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I do think it is actually a very good idea to draw inspiration from your surroundings and from the events that occur around you or to you or, anything like
Mm-hmm.
that. So, base your main character on a family member or a best friend, or use real life and use their real life changes to guide your story's character development. Um, people go through real shit all the time.
All the
And
time.
obviously, if you're going to copy paste your best friend's life into your book, you should probably talk to them about it. But I think more think about it more
Hey,
along the lines.
we're writers. They should know better when they become our friends, right?
Maybe, maybe we should start handing out business cards with the warning on it.
Yes, we're warning. If you want to become friends with me, be aware what you do might end up in my books.
Right, right. Um, Also, use details about your hometown or the cities that you know or the cities that you've visited to build the world of your fictional story, whether it's urban fantasy like ours, which is based in our world, or a fantasy novel, which, obviously occurs in a fantasy land.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my books are based in the Atlanta area because that's where we're from.
Right.
But I did have scenes in frickin' fairies in Louisiana, which I have never been to before.
Yeah.
And so it took a lot of research.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of that being said, a lot of cities are similar. So if you watch the inner workings of your city, that can translate to any area, even in a fictional world.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
For
yeah, for
sure.
sure. Yeah.
Um, if you don't want to invoke any person or place that's too connected to you personally, though, because I
Mm-hmm.
know a lot of writers choose to write with pen names or,
Mm-hmm.
don't want to copy their best friend's entire life story into their book. Take it upon yourself to do some people watching. It's
Oh,
amazing
for
to just
sure.
watch the way that people interact with each other, whether it's at work or, at the grocery store or in the mall or whatever.
Yeah, this is something that can actually be a short time period too. You're at work, go outside and eat lunch. Well, when it's nice outside, not when it's freezing cold like it is
No,
right now.
especially when it's raining.
Yes, go sit in the rain, people. We've got to suffer. We're writers. No, but when it's nice outside, go to the park and watch people. And if you only have your lunch hour to do it, when I was in the DA's office, I wrote an entire book on
Hmm.
my lunch hour.
Yep.
I had that, and it wasn't even the full hour because you got to get your lunch, you got to, sit down. So I probably 40 minutes a day was all I had, and I wrote an entire book.
Yes. Yeah.
So, but you can go outside and people watch on your lunch hour. Not only is it invigorating to be outside when you're cooped up inside all day,
True. True.
but people do funny things. You know, not a lot of people are hanging out at the park right now, but in the spring and the summer and the fall, it's great to go watch. That kind of makes me sound like a creeper, doesn't it? I think
I
writers are creepers.
I wasn't gonna say anything.
Hey, I am not alone. Everybody listening to this podcast is a creeper as much as I am.
Wow, you can't just call people out like that.
I I need my tribe.
Well, fair enough. I mean, you're right though, because like I'm also gonna say like cafes or libraries or
Oh
whatever,
yeah, for
also
sure.
very good places to go to people watch, but also just to work. Because you mentioned going outside to work, and
Mm-hmm.
I think That's a really good idea. I actually didn't consider that, but like even just sitting in a coffee shop,
Hmm.
because like when you and I used to go to the coffee shop on whatever Sunday mornings or
Hmm.
whatever,
Wasn't that wonderful when we could
oh,
do
I
that?
loved it. I loved it. And I've always felt like more inspired and focused, maybe because I felt like I was going to be judged if I just sat around and did nothing. But
Of course, she has these headphones that she can't hear through. And so I'll be working and I'll look up at her and I'm like, oh, what if I do this, this, and this? And then suddenly she'll look up at me and she'll be like, are you talking to me?
did
And
you
I'm
say
like,
something?
damn it. I had this whole spiel going. No, but
And
it
I
really
missed
is.
all of it.
It's really fun
It
to do the
is.
cafe thing.
It is. And you're always going to see a bunch of different kinds of people because, like, everybody loves,
Coffee
well, I won't
shops.
say everybody, but like lots of people really enjoy coffee shops.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so you're going to get snippets of conversation or the ways that people talk to each other or the way that they talk to the barista or like any of that kind of stuff. Just a really good way to study how people can exist in your
Yeah.
stories as well.
How they interact and that kind of thing. It is fascinating. Every now and then you'll see Karens out there and it'll be, oh, interesting, I could have that happen in such and such a scene. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's for sure. But this also leads me to say, talk about your work with people, or at least like-minded writers. I mean, this
Right.
is, I have you and you have me, so that always helps. But
Yes.
find someone if you don't have someone as close as Taylor and I are. But that really gets me fired up and excited about writing is when I talk to Taylor about my ideas, my plots, my plot issues. She is wonderful to brainstorm with about, I'm stuck
Yeah.
and this is where I am. And she'll be like, yeah, because such and such. I'm like, oh. But a writing buddy is great, not just for bouncing off ideas, but for encouragement.
100%. Well, especially because, like, we start talking about a problem with one of our plot lines, and we're like, well, I'm really discouraged by this kind of thing. And you're like,
Mm-hmm.
well, what if this? And I'm like, who? What if
I
that?
I
Oh,
didn't
I gotta
think
go
of
write
that.
right now.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
sometimes my idea isn't what she ends up going with, but it sparked her brain to go off in a different direction.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, a writing buddy is great for external accountability.
Oh, that's true.
Yes. I mean,
Yeah.
which is wonderful to have because it's very easy to go, well, I'm tired and I don't really want to. But, if you're doing something with a buddy, it's, a great way to have someone who is counting on you. We're supposed to compare our chapters tomorrow. So I have to write this chapter because we're supposed to talk about it tomorrow.
I know. I missed the paragraph writing that we used to do because that was a really
Me
good way
too.
to go back and forth on writing and like looking at each other's writing and seeing how we did things and how to
And
bounce off of it.
it helps in so many different ways. It sparks ideas.
Yeah.
It helps us to work on a particular, say we're doing description,
Mm-hmm.
or we
Mm-hmm.
want to work with the color green, or,
Right.
it really helps in so many different ways. But number one, it gets us writing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That just that steady practice is
Right.
wonderful.
Right.
Um, you know, Another thing that makes me think of is challenges. You always used to do sentence challenges.
Oh, that's right. I have not done one in like over a year.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
but that is a great way to get yourself back into writing. Find an online challenge. I'm sure there's bunches of them, or challenge yourself. Pick a sentence out of open a random book, go
Pick a
halfway
line.
down, pick a line, and you've got to use that, and it gets you going.
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
No, I think that's oh, my cat.
She says you're not paying enough attention to her.
Obviously not. Actually, her perch spot is on my desk right in front of this monitor that I'm using.
Oh, so she's like, you're in my spot. What are you
Uh-huh.
doing,
Uh-huh.
human?
I'm pretty sure she's convinced that my brand new computer is all hers. It's her nice head rubbing monitor and her perch to look out into the living room and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, no, I agree. I think doing those challenges is super useful. I had a year one time where I did a sentence challenge every single day.
Yeah, you did great. And I remember I helped with sentences.
You did. I
Courtney
was just
helped with
looking at those the other
sentences.
day. Yeah,
Really?
Yeah, I was. Mostly because this year I really do just want to write more. Just in
Hmm.
general, I would like to write more and just
Work on
be
our
thinking about
craft.
writing. Yes,
Hmm.
exactly. Um,
Hmm.
And speaking of old challenges, actually, my next tip was to look at your old work. Um, wow. Well, yeah, it's true, but it's also fun because you get to see like how much you've grown too as a writer.
That is true.
Um, was something that I've done. So I've been doing those sentence challenges since like 2014, 2013, something like that.
Wow.
Oh God, that's the 10-year mark. Jesus.
Oh, wow. It sure is. Holy cow.
I'm pretty sure 2013 is when I started those. But what I will do sometimes or have done before is I'll take one of those old sentences that I've done and redo it now with the craft that I've honed up
Oh,
to this point.
neat.
And
And
so
then you have
I'll
a before and after version.
exactly. And it's super cool actually to see the difference in the choices that I've made with word choice,
Mm-hmm.
sentence structure, descriptions,
Mm-hmm.
setting, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Um, so yeah, looking at old work is just a really good way to get some inspiration again. Like you said, ugh, because
I
I've
do cringe when I read some of my old stuff. I'm like, what was I
oh
thinking?
man, the very first draft of the book that I'm working on right now, actually, I wrote back in oh 2012, I think. Oh, it's hideous. It's awful.
That's
Absolutely terrible.
my very first book ever. I wrote before Courtney was even born, and she's 32 now.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'll go back. I switched points of view within one sentence to the next. I'm reading this going, oh my God. But the story idea
Uh-huh.
was brilliant. And I still think it was brilliant. So that will be one someday that I get back out there again. High
Absolutely.
fantasy. Yeah.
Yeah, do a rewrite of it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but like my old writing always makes me want to write, whether it's through editing the cringy old work, or starting the next part of the story, because I do
Mm-hmm.
have multiple old books now that I can go back and read, and I'm like, ah, I can be
I
working on
can
the
fix
second
this
one.
now. I know
Right.
where it needs to go. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I've taken ideas from my old writing, I've refreshed it into something new. I've done that. I'm doing that with the book that I'm writing right now, obviously. Since it's just it needed so much work.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a great exercise. It gets me thinking about the worlds I've created, the characters that I have, the stylistic choices that I made once before, and the ones that I prefer now, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. I mean, another thing you get out of reading your old work, why did you never finish it?
Mm,
Did you write yourself into a corner? Did you get stuck and not know where you wanted it to go? What was it? Because it might have been that book was perfectly fine. You just wrote yourself into a corner, which I do all the time. So as you reread your old stuff, not only are you sparking ideas for new books, but think about whether you just need to chop off the last couple chapters of what you wrote and
definitely.
start fresh. um I also like reading my old stuff, even though I say it's cringy. I mean, sometimes I'm looking at it going, oh my God, this is good.
Yeah, yeah.
And then sometimes, of course, I'm like, oh my God, what was I thinking? um but really, that is an excellent tip. Go back over your old writing. It is sure to give you something to get you back into the spirit of things.
Well, right, because like you got that spark for an idea for some reason,
Mm-hmm.
so maybe you will have that spark again as you're rereading it.
Mm-hmm.
I have noticed with my book ideas, I typically, get that spark and I'll start writing on it and thinking about it, and I can always tell when a book idea is going to stick or not.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'll write and I'll be like, nah, well, I
Mm-hmm.
don't really know
It's
about
it's
that.
when you hit that meh point that
Yeah,
you need to
yeah.
find out why.
It's usually just I think for me it's not developed enough. I don't have enough
Mm-hmm.
history or backstory or don't do that. Or I just
Yeah,
don't have
there's
enough there.
something wrong with where you are. And
Right.
so that is just something to keep in mind, because you can come back to it. Something about what you've done is not right.
It's
And
either
so,
not right or it's not enough.
mm-hmm.
There's something missing. There's just something.
Because
So go
you and I will do that we'll get book ideas to write together, and we'll get all fired up about it and get so excited. And then as we get into it, we're like, meh.
yeah.
So there's something wrong at that point. And if you could pinpoint what that is, you would know where to go from there.
Right. Yeah,
So,
definitely.
yeah.
But speaking of not knowing where to go with things, my next tip, we're making some really great segues for my notes today. um, Prompts. I think writing
Oh,
prompts are
yeah.
so important for trying to get back into the swing of things. They're all over the place. They're online. You can find them in books, from
Yeah,
your
for
fellow
sure.
peers,
Hmm.
your writing buddies, your family, your friends, etc. Um, there's endless potential to draw inspiration from to write even just one scene or one paragraph about.
And if
Um,
you're trying to work on a particular thing, I guarantee there's a prompt out there for it.
right. Yeah,
Yeah. I want to
for sure.
hone my horror skills. Let's look at horror prompts. I want to,
Yes,
whatever it is, I guarantee you can find prompts online
absolutely.
for
You
it.
can also
Yeah.
create your own.
I mean, for sure.
A couple of years ago, I made um a horror PowerPoint prompt thing for Halloween, where I had a prompt for every day for the month of October. Uh, there was a horror prompt.
We do that for our patrons?
I think all of the pictures that I used in it were copyrighted. So
Oh, so we couldn't. Yeah.
yeah, I need to make one that's not, which maybe I can utilize like Canva or something like
Yeah.
that.
Canva is my go-to. I love it.
Yeah, so maybe I'll do that this year. I won't make any promises because of who I am as a person, but
Yeah. I mean, we always have grandiose ideas. We like
yeah.
to help our patrons have been wonderful. Of course, we haven't
Oh, for
done
sure.
this for a year, so we understand that we weren't uh supportable at that point. But
Oh,
we are
absolutely not.
back. We
Yeah.
are back. So
We are, and we're
consider
trying to come back.
supporting us again. Just you might want to wait and make sure we actually do this. But
Wow, you're selling us real good.
I know I'm just worried. I think we can do it. I am excited about it. Super
Yeah.
excited.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I think it gets us into thinking about writing and it gets us back into writing too, which is the whole
Hmm.
point of this episode, is to
Absolutely.
just get back into it.
Hmm.
Create a story, a scene, a chapter based on a prompt to get used to being at the keyboard or notebook again. Because if you don't have any ideas, it's really hard to sit down at a blank page and say, ah, yes, I'm going to write now.
Hmm.
Um, so it's way easier to be given a little tidbit of inspiration of go write about this thing.
Hmm.
So it's way easier to just get back into the swing of actually writing a scene or a chapter.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
because writing words, whether you keep them, you love them, you hate them, whatever, you're bound to get back into it as long as you sit down and actually put in some time.
Yeah. I mean, like we said, the paragraph writing is really a way to we pick up on each other's weaknesses. Um,
True.
some of the stuff we write, we can't tell who wrote it,
Yeah.
but some of the stuff, it's very clear because we each have tendencies which may not be a good thing. So if you can tell that I've written it because I've used certain words over and over again, that's something I need to work on.
That's fair. It could also be like a stylistic thing though, and
I
that's
mean,
not
it could,
necessarily
it
something you want
could,
to change.
it could.
Yeah. But it is a good point though and again, like you said, the writing buddy is such an important aspect of being a writer. I feel
Hmm.
like just having people to talk to about your writing, because they can help you like get that inspiration and help you along the way to getting back into it.
It was so lovely going to the conferences and meeting other writers. Their humor is
It was
like
very
ours.
lovely.
It's like these are our people.
I know they
Yeah.
would make jokes about writing, and I was like, oh,
Yeah, they're on our same wavelength.
right, right.
Yeah, yeah.
No, super awesome.
Hmm.
We mentioned this before, right? Just to write.
Yeah.
Getting published is a large goal, and most of us want to because we're writing our stories. We want to share our characters
Hmm.
with everybody. They talk at us, they might as well talk at everybody else too.
Right.
But it can feel intimidating to get back into writing when you imagine a whole audience out there.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm writing for thousands of people. Like, no.
especially when you get back into it and it's going to suck and we all know it's going to, and you have that worry, oh, I'm going to disappoint fans. Hey, we're not at that point yet.
Right.
So let's just write to write right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when I first started writing a gajillion years ago, I would sit down at that blank page and I'd be like, oh, I can't write it because it's not going to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It does not have to be. It doesn't have to
No,
be perfect to get it on a piece of paper.
it can actually suck, honestly.
Yeah,
And it
yeah,
probably will. Sorry, but it
yeah.
probably will.
I know. Well, and I've got
Who was it?
buddies.
Hemingway that said, write drunk and edit sober.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, there's
yeah.
something to that. Write drunk, have fun with it.
For sure.
You can edit it later.
That's yeah, I agree. And I think that's really what got me past the point of not being able to write a book at all.
Mm-hmm.
I eventually just had to let
What, getting
go.
drunk?
Oh.
No, mom. Sorry. Okay, proceed.
Wow. Well, now I'm derailed.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I don't remember what I was saying, but I do
I'm
remember another
sorry.
point where
Okay.
I have a bunch of friends who want to be writers, who want to write, but they want it to be perfect the first time they put it on
Mm-hmm.
paper.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just it's not feasible. Nothing you write the first time is going to be perfect. Maybe one sentence, maybe you find a really good word.
Yeah, you might have a beautiful sentence or
You've
a
got a great
beautiful word.
paragraph,
Yeah.
or you just like you did that chapter so beautifully.
Mm-hmm.
But the first time you write a whole book, there's going to be things to edit. It's
Oh
not
yeah.
going to be perfect, but you do get to go back and edit is the whole point. So
Mm-hmm.
write for yourself, write yourself a story, make it really cool, do that really cool thing that you think needs to happen, do it all. Because as
Mm-hmm.
soon as you get it on paper, it's at least something to work with.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry about commercial appeal. We talked a little bit about the marketing, the trends and genres and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but honestly, you should really focus on, your art, your craft, and the love you have for the writing craft itself. Because especially for traditional publishing, it's a little bit different for indie publishing. But
Mm-hmm.
especially for traditional publishing, the market changes so
Oh yeah,
quickly
for sure.
that if you're going to write for, a trope that you love right now and you try to get traditionally published, that's going to be done in 2 years when you actually get published.
Yeah. And so that
Um,
that trope may be like the vampires overdone.
right, right.
So yeah, write what you like and it's going to come through.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I really can't say enough about, writing for the art of writing by doing work with a buddy, your
Hmm.
sentence challenges, our paragraph writing, whatever it is.
Yes,
That, and actually that takes the pressure off. If you're doing paragraph writing, we're not writing for a book. We're just writing to write because we
just to
love
write.
it and we're honing a particular skill or just going, to see where this idea takes us. And,
Definitely. Yeah,
that, especially when you're getting back into it, is invaluable.
absolutely. Yeah. Well, and then, you know, there are so many things um that go into just trying to get back into it.
Mm-hmm.
Um and there are feelings and thoughts and emotions about like specific writing that you have and you want to convey a mood, you want to convey, whatever. So I, create a mood board, a vision board,
Oh,
a
that's
mood
a great
playlist.
idea.
Um, I have started. I think I've done this for a couple of years now, but I make playlists for writing, for specific books, for just the writing mood, songs that make me
Mm-hmm.
think about writing,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. It's an amazing way to get you thinking about your stories in a way that's not just words.
Yeah.
Um, because we are all about words, obviously we are writing, but
Yes.
yeah, but another really good way to think about your stories is through like the emotional appeal and what kind of soundtrack might it have,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you
I
can get
love that
across some,
idea. Yeah.
yeah, well, because you can get across themes and stuff. You can think about themes and specific plot lines or specific
Well,
chapters or
think about
characters.
writing that scene that is so you're in this intense moment. And if you're listening to a soundtrack that has got that intense music, that is a great background to help you write that. I think that's a
Absolutely,
very good idea.
absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, you have to blah, 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 blah.
Oh
You
wow.
also have to think about I did finish my glass of wine.
No, there you go.
What is it that you're afraid of? Because ultimately, if you're not writing, there's a reason. What is it that's keeping you from jumping back into it? Is it the fear that you're going to suck? Is it the fear of rejection? Because we all know that it hurts when you get that rejection letter. We've all been there.
Word.
Are we trying to save ourselves from that? Are we trying to protect ourselves? But rejection is a part of writing. Even the most famous, wonderful writers that, are our heroes now were rejected before they found their niche.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's fear of what? Analyze what it is that's stopping you. Most of what you're going to come up with are excuses, not
That's
like
true.
time. That's why your point about scheduling it or using that timer is, everybody can find 10 minutes, I promise.
Yes.
Priority. That's for you to decide. Is writing really a priority? If it's not, that's perfectly fine. But if it is, then you got to do it.
Yep.
If it's not, then there's your answer too. That writing just isn't a thing for you.
Yep.
Honestly, the time thing has been my excuse. Other things have had a higher priority. And I'm trying to switch that up this year. Writing is a priority to me. I have learned that in the last year of not being able to write, not being able to do this podcast.
Yep.
I miss it. So I need to treat it like the priority it is.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm actually using, as I said earlier, my scheduling. I'm doing it on a calendar and I'm writing in scheduling time. And I have to understand that, because I do have a real job. I can't, it's not like I can say, sorry, judge, I'm not going to come to court today because I scheduled writing. I have to be realistic.
Be realistic. Yeah.
But I do need to make it a higher priority.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I was just thinking about what my excuse was for not writing so much, and I don't know. I'm tired.
Well, I mean, you've got a fiance, so you're in that stage. You're, the romance stage of your relationship. You got a new job, so there's been all the stress of getting that up and running. It's a thing. There are reasons, and then there are excuses.
That's true.
So, you always have tried to make time. And I've done
sometimes
more excuses than reasons.
Yeah.
But
well, we can change that this year.
I think so. And I think this podcast helps me at least.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think no matter what, just talking about writing is always going to be like an inspiration.
Passion.
Yeah. And it's such a good way to just start thinking about things like the different topics that we cover and, how can that apply to our stories as we're trying to talk to other people about it too. And mostly each other, because that's really how this started, is because we just like talking.
Clearly.
And, some people like to listen to us talk for whatever reason.
Why, I don't know. But anyway, yeah.
But anyway, all in all, don't stress about getting back into writing. I think that's something that is, it's a really good way to get off track of writing, is just by stressing about it.
Yeah, that's not the point of writing. Writing is because we love it. It is a passion. So if it's stressing you out, maybe it is not what you need to invest your time in.
Read a book instead.
Read
a book instead.
Listen to our podcast.
Or listen to our podcast. Yes.
That's
my mother is much better about marketing our podcast than I am. So I'm just saying read a book. She's like, no, listen to us talk, obviously.
Obs, man.
Yeah, but you obviously love writing especially if you're listening to us yabber on for a million years.
For sure.
And you obviously want to get back into it. If you're interested in this topic. So, use the tools available to you. It'll help give you a boost. Think about a bit of the tips that we've given today. If you have any of your own, let us know. We would love to hear from you. But yeah, don't stress about it. Get back into it. You can do it. Start slow.
Share your stuff with us.
Absolutely.
Share your thoughts. We're excited.
Yeah. That's all the notes that I do have for today.
Me too.
I do have an interview question though.
Oh Lord, it's been a long time. Okay.
Well, it's also been a while since I wrote these notes. So this interview question that I wrote myself will also be a surprise to me. So
Okay.
It's going to be great. Since we've been on a podcasting hiatus for so long, what are you most looking forward to getting back into it? That's a great question.
That is a great question. As to the podcast, just meeting with you to talk about, I mean, usually when we get together, it's family, it's a birthday, it's whatever.
Yeah.
This time is for you and me to talk about writing.
Yes,
And it's a
absolutely.
passion of both of ours. So I am so excited about that part. I love to also hear from our listeners because
Yeah.
they have great ideas, great comment. We love other writers.
Oh
So it's
man,
wonderful.
it's just so exciting. Like you'll text me and be like, "We got the comment from this person," and I'm like, "Oh my God!" Like
Oh,
there are
and
people who are like talking to us.
when Deanna got published, I was
Ah,
like, one of our
wildly
listeners
awesome.
is a
Yeah,
published author. How proud we are. I
that's so
mean,
cool.
it really is. I am excited about that. And then I'm excited about getting back into the writing just because it lets me go into another world. I can't wait to go into those other worlds and find out what my characters are going to do this time.
Absolutely, because they're always gonna do some shit, you know?
Yeah, I've got some really interesting characters that get themselves into some really interesting predicaments. So I can't wait to
Yeah,
see what they're going to do next.
absolutely. Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. You know, I feel the same way about the podcast. I really missed talking to you
Mm-hmm.
you know, for an hour every week.
Mm-hmm.
That was always very fun. I will admit I'm not a huge fan of the note taking, but talking to you makes it all worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Just chatting about writing and all these, and honestly, once we do the notes and are talking about it, I learn a lot
Me
um,
too.
from actually doing this podcast,
Me
and
too.
I get to start thinking about my craft in different ways, and I think it
Mm-hmm.
helps me to be a better writer, just to talk about it every week. So
I think so too.
definitely that, but you know, same as you. I'm excited to be more proactive towards my writing. I want that to be an actual goal of mine this year. Not necessarily getting closer to publishing, but you know, just honing my craft, and you know, eventually I'll get there.
Yeah,
um
my goal is to get frickin' fairies edited to the point where I'll feel comfortable submitting it again.
yeah, yeah, for
So
sure.
I can't wait.
I can't wait either. Here's to 2023, the year of writing.
The year of writing. Let's do it.
Alrighty. Well, thank you everyone to who has been, you know, awaiting our return. I know it's been a very long time. We gave a few of the events that's occurred since we've been here, but we're extremely happy to be back.
We are.
Um, we mentioned it before. I think we're going to start doing bi-weekly episodes. We'll start there. Odds are, as we get back into the swing of things, maybe we can do a little bit more. You know, we might bring back our myths and monsters, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll
Mm-hmm.
have to see where this takes us, how our work lives go, all of that kind of thing. But we are so thrilled to be back. I thoroughly enjoy talking about writing
Me
for
too.
so long, and just talking in general, I guess, because I'm just ongoing.
Yeah,
Um,
we're talkers.
yeah.
But yeah, thank you all for listening. You can find our updates and information at our podcast, which is eatdrinkwritepodcast.com. We had social media. We still have it, but I haven't put much stuff on it. I'm going to try to become more active on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. The best way really to get in touch with us is our email. It's eat.drink.write.podcast. Why we created it that long, I don't know. At
Oh, yeah.
gmail.com. You know, yeah. But anyway, so
We
you
really
can,
could have done EDW,
yeah,
you
I
know.
think we tried and it was taken or something, but
Oh, I see. I see.
yeah, we might be thinking about changing up our podcast uh email because that is atrocious. But we will see you guys the next time, hopefully in a couple weeks. If you
Yep.
have topic ideas since we've been gone so long, please email us
Yep.
and that'll give us, because that's another thing that's really hard to do is what are we going to talk about now? We, send us
Oh,
ideas.
we could talk about a brick, please.
I mean, you're right. You're not wrong. But we will
uh,
see you next time and we're very excited.
thanks, guys.